Shri Babaji Ya Namaha. Om Shri Lahiri Mahasaya Ji Ya Namaha. Om Shri Yukteswarji Ya Namaha. Om Shri Paramahansa Yogananda Ji Ya Namaha. Om Shri Satguru Shaliji Ya Namaha. Om Shri Kriyananda Ji Ya Namaha. O Great Spirit, saints and sages of all times, of all places, O ye pathmakers of old, all of ye beings of the air, the earth, the fire, the water, the ether, Namaste. Ancestors of our bloodlines, of our spiritual lines, of all of our adopted lines, Namaste. Sweep clear our paths. May our communication be clear, that which is spoken, that which we hear, be of benefit to our lives. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadidam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Namaste. Welcome. Welcome to my heart. Welcome to our Sunday noon meditation. Once upon a yogi time, there was a fellow like you and me, living in a land of great variety. One morning he woke from his dreams, and his mind was filled with a quench for gold. Got dressed, went to work. Didn't meditate that morning. Got dressed, went to work. and his mind was filled with a desire for gold. Came home. As he was getting ready for bed, his mind became filled with the desire for gold and silver. Gold and silver. 3 more nights he slept. He dreamt about gems and gold and silver. And it became so powerful, this thought, that it kept him awake through the night. And all day long, all he could think about was this gold and silver, and gems and gems and gems. What would he do? What would he do? Well, he has a dream on the 4th night. And on the 4th night, what does he dream? He dreams that beneath a tree lies buckets of gold and silver and rubies and diamonds and emeralds and every gem you could imagine. And he sees the road to this beckoning him, beckoning him, beckoning him, beckoning him. He still hadn't meditated, but he was remembering his dreams. So he packs up his bag, his little yogi over the sack bag, and his camelback drinking container so he could drink. And off he goes. Doesn't tell his boss he's leaving, doesn't tell his wife he's leaving, just goes off on this journey. And he walks, and he walks, and he takes a bus, and he takes a plane, and he takes a train, guided from one place to the next by this thirst, knowing that some way he will find this wealth that he seeks. Now he has to finance it along the way, so he does different kinds of jobs. He works in a cafe, he learns to be a barista. I think that's the right word. He learns to make coffee. He works as a chef, he sweeps floors, even gets a job as an executive for a while, getting the money to get to this gold and wealth. After a long, long, long while, he arrives at this land, beautiful land, just unbelievably beautiful. And when he arrives, he sees a domed building, incredible dome building, plated with gold, radiant in the sun with gold. Inside the building is filled, covered with gems, covered with gold and silver. Goes outside, and there's a big tree. Surely, all of this effort wasn't taking him to this building. He wanted what he could grab himself and take and hold himself so it belonged to him and him alone. After all, he'd come a long way. He'd worked hard. Underneath the tree sits a little yogi. Now the fellow didn't know it was little yogi. He just saw an ancient one sitting there, very quietly. Excuse me, sir, sir, sir. Excuse me. Yes. You wish to ask a question? I dreamt that underneath this tree I would find a chest filled for me with gold and silver and gems. And I think you're sitting on it. Would you move, please? Sure, sure, sure. Happy to move. Little yogi moves over. Om, om, om. And the fella starts digging. 1 foot, 2 feet. He goes all the way around the tree, comes back to the yogi and says, I'm sure you're still sitting on it. The yogi smiles and levitates. Says, here, dig there. The man is so obsessed he doesn't even see that the yogi is levitating. How could he miss that? The yogi just lifts his body, chanting Om. Of course, no casket, no chest filled with gold and silver and gems. Very despondent. Man, this has been a waste. You know, I've spent years. I left my home, I left my family, I left my wife, I left my friends to come searching for this gold and silver. And now I don't find it. And I know this is the place I was to come to. I saw this in my dreams. Did you know? Maybe we could sit down together for a little bit. We'll have a little chai and sit here under the tree in the part that you haven't dug up. And the little yogi called to his friends, and his friends came and they filled the earth in. They brought some chai. And the yogi said to the man, tell me what you're seeking. Tell me what you desire. Tell me how you've been spending your life. Well, from the time that I was a child, I wanted to be great. I wanted to be accepted by everyone. I wanted to be approved of by everyone. I wanted to feel like I was important, like I mattered, like everybody saw me. And I had these dreams, and these dreams said that underneath a tree I would find wealth, gold and silver galore, and gems galore. That I would find the greatest gifts of life under this tree. I've given up everything. I gave up a good job. I gave up a nice wife. I left her behind. I left behind a family that loved me. I left behind a home. And I traveled here and yonder, and I did all kinds of work. I kept myself very, very busy and traveled very fast and very hard, working every day, doing everything I had to get here to this moment now. I see. Why don't you take a rest? Just take a little rest. You don't understand. You don't understand. I have done so much to get here. I have been so busy. I have spent every waking moment and sleeping moments to get here. Oh, I see. Just take a rest. Let's just breathe together for a minute. We'll join them. A little yogi says, just shut your eyes for a moment. Now, focus those eyes here at the point between your eyes, at the Ajna chakra, dear sir, at the gate that opens to the wealth of life. I don't see anything there but chaos and desiring, and I want the gold and I want the silver. Okay. It's all right. Close your eyes again. It'll be better in just a moment. does that feel, sir? Oh. Why, for just a moment, there was a relief. I felt relieved. I felt happy. For the first time since I was a child, I'm not seeking anything. Just for this moment, I feel okay. I feel okay. We'll do it again. And so they sat and chanted. And every once in a while, the little yogi would say to the fellow, "How are you doing?" And he'd listen. With all his attention, he would listen. And he'd reassure him. He'd teach him a little bit. He taught him a little bit about letting go. He taught him a little bit about taking all those desires, letting one go after another. And the fella said, I don't know, if I keep letting go, what will I be? Who will I be if I slow down? Who will I be if they don't know my name in the world? Who will I be if I'm not doing? Don't worry about it. Give it a try. You'll become content. You'll become filled with bliss. You'll become filled with Ananda. That's who you'll be. That's what you'll be. But don't worry. You can always go back. You can always go back. And they sat for the cycle, the new moon to the full moon, new moon to the full moon. And the full moon arises. And in the light of the full moon, the yogi says to the fella, "Well, I think you're ready." "Oh, you're going to give me the jewels?" "Oh, I have given you the jewels. You have them. You have the golden light of the sun radiating within you. You have the silvery light of the moon radiating within you. You have every gem in the universe within you. Now, go. Take the high-speed train. Don't dawdle. Take the high-speed train. And tomorrow you will return home. And when you are there, remember this time. And they sat for a moment, hearing the Om, radiating and feeling the love sharing between the two of them. And in the morning, in a very unusual way, the little yogi got up, lifted the man up by the hand and said, "Let's go to the train. I'll walk you there." And all the people were astounded because the little yogi never left the tree. But that morning, he walked And he blessed the fellow. He blessed his disciple. For during that time there had been an initiation. The practice in an initiation a disciple had become. The fellow had said to him, I would like to study with you. Would you teach me? Oh yes, of course I will. Of course I will. And he said, turn inward. And always I will be there. Remember the Om. Always I will be there. And he gives him a little bag with a little bit of lunch in it and lifts him up on the train. And off the man goes. Now, what you don't know is that night the man arrives home, at the home he left all that time ago. Everyone was glad to see him. They were so glad to see him. His wife and his children come out and they say, look what we found this morning underneath the tree. Look what we found. Look what we found. And they bring him a big, 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 big cloth filled with gold and silver and diamonds. And the night before, that ancient tree that had stood by their house fell over in a storm. And when it fell over, all of the jewels were exposed. That which he went searching so far for was there in his home. And he sat with his family and he told them about his experience. He told them about meeting his guru. He told them, more importantly, about the Om and how the Om led him home. And he said, I'm sorry. I was so busy searching for what was right here that I left you. I didn't pay attention to you. I didn't show you my love. And now I hope you forgive me. And together we can live peacefully. There's plenty here for all. Plenty, plenty for all. And they began to try. They began to try. They began to try to work together. But what does it say, this story? What does it say for you and me? How are you spending your life? What are the desires that you're spending your life filling? Now, I'll tell you without a doubt. You can come into the Sangha and see, what am I spending my life filling? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my gosh. Right where I am. 7 books. I guess I couldn't teach without feeling comfortable with 7 books. None of which I am reading right at the moment. That's a desire. It needs to be modified. I'm embarrassed. I didn't know there were so many here. We spend our lives desiring. It is called, in yogic principles, greed. Yeah, some people don't like the word greed, but it is the last of the states of consciousness that we have to balance as we're going through, the yama niyamas. So you're balancing violence, you're becoming more and more peaceful. But greed is the last to be gone. And what does that greed come down to? It comes down to our longing for the gifts of life. Are you longing for the gifts of life? Is it the jewels that you want? Or do you want life itself? Do you want to become one with life itself? To see the divine, to become one with the divine, or to have all of the bones and bonuses that we get with life. Which is your preference? I can hear some of you saying, I'd like both. I'd like both. Now, the gifts of life are wonderful. They are, without a doubt, wonderful. But to know the source, to know life itself, to understand how the gifts manifest, what they are, what it means to have the gifts of life, what's the source of life. It's like the person who finds one gold coin on the street and they pick it up, they've got the gold coin. But if they knew how that gold coin was made, if they knew where the gold came from, then they would really have the blessing. And we're not talking about material things here, we're talking about this, the state of consciousness at your sun center, right here, right there, from which all life experiences that you have emanate forth. Higher than this, they come from above, but they begin to project down into your chakra system through there, through your sun center. Now, there must be a practice. There's always a Kriya practice for something. One of the great blessings of the tradition is that there are practices for you, techniques for you to use yourself so that you can reveal to yourself that which needs to be revealed. You don't have to come and listen to me. And hear one practice and do it, 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 and see what it reveals. And then you really have something. Then you really have a blessing. For if I or any teacher give you a practice and you say, well, why? Why should I do this? Or why is it done this way? The answer is, this is the way that it was revealed. Maybe it'll work for you. Maybe it won't work for you. But unless you practice it, you won't know. Now, there is this great formula. And mystically, I would say that it is one, in our tradition, one of the greatest formulas that we've been left. It's I times D equals F. Intensity times duration equals force. Now, this is a formula from Satguru Shaliji, the guru of Swami Pranananda. If you think about this, I times D equals F. Now, if like this man, this fellow in our story, he had been thinking about acquiring gold coins and silver coins and gems since he was a little tot, and he had been doing that for 20 years, let's say, 25 years. That's a long duration. But then he had a dream, and for 4 days and 4 nights, he had nothing in his consciousness but continual thinking of these gems. Longing for, grasping for, unable to get out of his mind. That is a very short duration with a very long intensity, a very strong intensity. You add that to the force of his long duration and the modest intensity, and you have a force that compels him forward in the world, compels him to do something. Now here, it's not just him. Something that compels him forward. And then all of this angular energy, not linear energy, not energy that is going to lead him to enlightenment, but angular energy causes him to run and rant, to get onto this train, to get onto that train, to leave behind this great wealth that he had in his life. The relationships he had, the love that he had, the beautiful home and family that he had, the peaceful environment that he had. causes him to race out into the world, to race, to race, to race, to race. My, oh my. Again, the intensity of what he was doing was great, because there was great running and ranting and raving. And many of you know this. I got a note from a disciple last week talking about how they appreciated the teachings because their mind was so overactive. The mind is overactive only when we have not put a lot of serious effort into training it. The mind must be trained, or it does what it wants to do. And this is a problem. You and I, we begin to think that we are the thoughts that enter our mind. And this fellow didn't even have the time to stop and see. And then he jumps on airplanes, he jumps on buses, he jumps on trains, he gets in cars, he walks. I think he even took a donkey along the way. And he gets to the city with a beautiful temple and an ancient tree, and he digs holes all the way around the tree, and even has the temerity to ask the little yogi, please move so I can find my gems. And the yogi was compassionate. He levitated and let the fella dig. That's a lot of intensity. Now, think about this. You have the duration from the childhood, the longing from the childhood. Then you have the short duration with a lot of intensity in those 4 dream days. And then you have this intensity and duration that are amplified by angular energy. So he's gone, was he gone 3 months? Was he gone 6 months? Was he gone 12 months? Was he gone 7 days? Only you know. But what we do know is that those first set of experiences, 1 and 2, have amplified the third experience and caused this massive, massive, chaotic life experience in his life. And when he finally sits, and there's a moment of silence, and he's in the presence of someone who can help him to see, oh, for just a nanosecond there's peace. And then all of the chaos arises again in the mind. And it takes help, it takes time to settle, to settle, to settle, to settle, to settle the mind. To enter that state of bliss, of ananda, of quietude, so that he can hear and see that which needs to be done. When your mind is afraid or filled with emotions of greed or desire, you miss the boat. You miss the boat. You don't believe me? Go back to the last time you really wanted something. A new dress, new pair of shoes, a new book. For some people it might be a new car. But go back to a moment where you can say, I really wanted this. Think about the anticipation of the wanting, the wanting, the wanting. And then what happens when you have it? Oh, there's 24 hours, it's beautiful. 48 hours is beautiful. A week later, most of the time you've forgotten all of that intensity pushed towards bringing that thing into your life. It's just gone. and you see another dress in the window, or you see another book, or you see another thing, and the mind wants that. Some places in America there are grocery stores, and the grocery stores are filled. Not all places, they're not like this, but some places they're just filled, top to bottom, with shelves and rows and rows and rows of foodstuffs. And oftentimes, I was with someone recently, I guess recently in the last 10 years recently, and we went into an American grocery store, and the person was absolutely just dumbstruck. How do you make a choice with so many different kinds of cereal? So many different kinds of rice. How can you choose? How can you choose? Oh, the mind becomes confused. That's what happens. The mind becomes confused. Your mind, my mind, we become confused. Now, having the gifts of life is lovely. But you need to spend more time meditating, attuning to the divine, and letting go, letting go, letting go, to make up for all of the time, to balance out all the time that you have been seeking. Now, fortunately, in yoga, we recognize that this has to be done methodically. It has to be done through practice of various techniques, because you don't want to spend, you don't usually have another 20 years to make up for how you've lived the last 20 years, or to balance it out, not make up for, but balance it out is the better way of putting it. And so I'm going to tell you it's going to sound like a silly ritual, but I tell you it was very powerful for her. Swami Mayananda Mahaswami had a practice, and she would see things that she liked. She liked beautiful things. So she might see a pair of earrings, or a scarf, or a pair of shoes, or a handbag. She loved handbags that she really liked. And she made a practice to not buy it. Sometimes she would go back 3 days later. Sometimes she'd go back 7 days later. Sometimes she'd go back a month later. And the second time she went back, if it was still there, and if she still wanted to have that thing, then she would purchase it. But she says, enough times, she says more than 50% of the time, when she went back, either the thing was no longer there, or she didn't care for it anymore. And at the end of her incarnation, she said, the first place I'm going to go is going to be the hall of all of the things that I didn't get in this lifetime. All the things that I put aside, all the things that I said no to, so I could discipline my mind. They're there in the astral, and I'm going to enjoy them for just a moment in the astral. Now, that's self-awareness. She took all that spiritual energy, all that earth energy, and converted it to astral energy. She said, no, all right, this is an absolutely beautiful shawl. I would really like this shawl. Not today. And it gave self-discipline. It gave self-discipline. And this is what we're trying to do, is discipline the mind. And so you do it in small ways. It is done in small ways, not in big harsh ways, but in small ways. You see a friend in need. A friend is ill, and you want to do something to help them. Don't go trying to save the world. What's something that you really enjoy? A cup of hot chocolate, a cup of peppermint tea, maybe apples. And for one day, every time you think about having that hot chocolate or that cup of tea or those apples, you don't. You spiritually offer it to them for whatever their need is. You offer it to them. Here. So all of the energy that you were placing into that desiring, you've gifted to them. You are gifting to them as a blessing. In doing that, you change the tide, my beloved. You change the tide. You change the trajectory of your life. So that instead of turning outward, outward, outward constantly and striving to fill all the desires that can fill your mind, I know. My guru gave his library away 3 times. I haven't done that. I've given books and books and books away, but they still find their way back to me. And I'm still happy to receive them. But you notice I said he gave his library away 3 times. He had a 4th library that accrued. Some things come to us in life sitting here doing nothing. Spring comes. Now the last thing I'm going to say today, and it's another very important concept. So I've told you about intensity times duration. I've told you about how it is that we can chase after something, and it's a small desire in the beginning, and then it can become overwhelming and spend your life chasing it. Intensity times duration equals force. I've taught you about giving up a little bit, just a little bit at a time, and doing it. If you do it as an offering for something for somebody who's in need, it's good because that pranic energy that you would be spending in getting it, you are helping life. You are benefiting life. This is a good thing. It went right out the window. I'm sorry. Completely fell out the window. Flew up into the ethers. Whatever I was going to say to you was good, but I can't remember it. Completely gone. So I would say then thus that it is time to turn and meditate. And see, maybe it will come back. Our desires can never be filled. It is not necessary to give up all of your desires. It is necessary to prime your pump, to train the mind, so that it has the skill, so that your mind and your desires are not ruling your life, but your wisdom and insight is doing so. So let us spend some time meditating. Pull the energy from the limbs of the body to the trunk of the body. Use the sipping breath. From the trunk to the spinal column. From the base of the spine to the sun center. Move that golden ball of light in front of you and sweep around to the left 3 times, encasing your body in golden light. Expand that light and ascend upward. Ascend above the room you are in. Above the building. above the continent, above the earth plane. Ascending to the very highest place of meditation. Find yourself in your grove of meditation. See how beautiful it is. Turn your head to the left with a double exhalation. Bring the head back to the center. Begin to watch the breath. From this high place, see yourself ascending up a mountain, walking through trees, through a forest, through a meadow, again ascending up the mountain. Reaching the halfway point, you come to a clearing. The light is radiant. You see in front of you a shrine of healing. Illumined with the light of life. Enter into the shrine. The light grows in intensity. Walk to the back of the shrine. Enter into the pool of light, feeling all of the old washing away as you enter into the pool. Walk back to the waterfall of light. As the light pours down upon your crown center. Let all of the difficult karmas wash away. The grasping, the yearning, the attachments, all the difficulties of life, let it wash free. the light pour forth upon you. As the light fills your being, your body may slowly begin to levitate. Let it be of its own accord. Now when you are ready, walk forth from the light, breathing in all of the light, filling your body, filled with new clothing, energized. Walk forth from the light. Walk forth from the shrine filled with energy, filled with vitality, filled with prana. And return to the high place of meditation. In your mind's eye, see your mind as a screen, a 3D screen. And at this moment, bring forth the object that is the most beautiful form of life for you at this moment. Sharpen your mind's eye, that you might see this object of beauty. Breathe in the form of beauty. See the colors of the form of beauty. Drink in those colors. Hear the sound of the form of beauty. Drink in the sound. Smell the form of beauty. Drink in the smell. Bring the object of beauty to your sun center. Shrink the object of beauty down into a small golden ball. Bring that ball of light to your sun center. And feel that light of beauty radiating as golden light down your spinal column, into the trunk of your body, into the limbs of your body, through your entire aura. Now radiate that beauty which thou art, using the Om mantra, silently or aloud. Radiate it out into life. Holding that feeling of beauty with you. Bring it forth. Hold it close to your sun center, close to your heart chakra, and radiate it forth to all who enter your aura. In these coming breaths, in these coming days, quiet your mind. Allow the beauty to radiate forth. Dhyana mulam guru murti, puja mulam guru padam, mantra mulam guru vakyam, moksha mulam guru kripa, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sachat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchitananda Murtaye Nishprabhanjaya Shantaya Niralamaya Tejase Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Take this feeling state with you as you walk into your week, as you walk into your days. Thou art blessed. Become an ever greater greater blessing unto all of those who enter your aura. Carry this sweetness with you and share it and radiate it forth. Let go of all the ranting and raving for just a nanosecond and find the bliss of Ananda. And as always, I thank you for the presence, the blessing of your presence, the blessing of your yoga city, the blessing of your meditative energies. Namaste.